republic for which it stands, one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
The town of Burlington will be holding the April 21st, 2022 meeting of the planning board as a virtual electronic meeting due to the current state of emergency due to the COVID-19 virus.
As such, the governor issued an executive order on March 12, 2020, authorizing remote meetings under General Law Code 30A, Section 20.
Those seeking to participate remotely may do so via the following. You can go to townofburlington.webex.com. The meeting number is 2342-829-5489, and the meeting password is 1645. This meeting is also being broadcast on the BCAT government channel. You can find it on Comcast 99, RCN 15, or Verizon 41, streamed on Facebook Live via the BCAT Facebook page. The public will be able to make comments during the hearing during time for public comments. Questions can be asked via WebEx, the WebEx chat function during the meeting. All persons wishing to ask a question or make a comment must identify themselves.
Great. So on to citizens' time. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on an item that's not currently on our agenda? If so, please raise your hand and speak and identify yourself. See anyone, Liz?
I don't see anybody in the chat. Nope.
Great. Let's move on to announcements, please.
Okay, so the Sculpture Park Committee will be holding a meeting April 19th at 4 p.m. Actually, this already happened. I'm sure it was amazing.
It was a great meeting.
It was fabulous, I'm sure. So the ZBRC Signage Subcommittee will have their meeting on April 26th at the usual time via Zoom. The Housing Partnership is doing a town-wide forum for their housing needs assessment, and that's April 27th, and that's from 7:30 to 9 p.m. That's via Zoom, and we ask that anybody who wants to learn more about housing in Burlington and what the study found, and also have your voices heard, to please register for that and come. We want as many people as possible, and you can register at tinyurl.com/BurlingtonHNA. And if you want more information, contact planning. There's going to be a townwide yard sale on April 30th. That's happening from 9 to 2. Town meeting is happening May 9th, 7 at the high school, 7:30 at the high school auditorium, right? And then Sculpture Park is having another meeting May 14th from 10 to 12 with a rain date of May 15th. And if you want to elaborate on those, please do.
The Sculpture Park is having an event on May 14th, actually. It is going to be a dedication of the sculpture that the Burlington community all pitched in to purchase, the Cherries, which is actually called Global Warming. And it will be an event on that Saturday, May 14th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Everyone is welcome, and we're going to have more details that come out in the weeks to come. It's going to be a pretty exciting event.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. I'm personally, myself and Burlington Parks and Recreation are sponsoring that townwide yard sale. It's an event that I created, and there's over 40 vendors. Registration is closed, but it looks like it's going to be a really good turnout this year. So I'm excited about that. Do any other members?
Where is that going to be held?
So there's going to be a centralized location, which is at Memorial.
Okay.
And then also 30 other folks will be hosting at their own homes.
Great.
I believe also Pine Glen is having their carnival the same day. So, hopefully it's a great day to hit a yard sale and a carnival on the same day.
So at Memorial, you get the listing and the map of where the yard sales are going to be?
So the listing will be, there's a virtual yard sale map. It's an app that you can download. And then also the tangible maps will be at Burlington Parks and Recreation and Town Hall on April 28th. And I'll be posting those on the residents page.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to administrative matters.
Chair, I wasn't sure. I know we talked earlier about potentially moving things out of order. It's completely up to you whether you want to do administrative. If you want to do the presentation first, or I know we have a member that can't stay on too long, so it's totally up to you
That's fine.
how you want to rearrange. But we have 4 members sitting here. We have 1 member online there. There are 2 special permits that you have in front of you, which are items. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Items D and E.
items D and E that we would need to take out of order to make sure we had enough members to hear the items so that could potentially vote. So it's up to you how you want to do that, but.
I think that that's the most ethically thing we can do for, you know,
Okay.
for the,
In that case,
Applicant.
Madam Chair, may I make a motion to take item D out of order?
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item D is.
So that's page, sorry,
The bottom of page
Seven.
7.
yep.
Item D is an application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.9, fast order food establishments of the zoning bylaws, 120 Cambridge Street. Katra Harani, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Realty Group LLC is the applicant. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Would you please state your name for the record?
My first name is Nitin and last name is Katra, and I live in Burlington since almost 2002, since 20 years, and I'm the business owner in Burlington almost last 16 years in Burlington.
Great. Welcome.
I don't know if the applicant wants to just give a quick description of what you're looking to do.
So we have one of the grocery stores in 120 Cambridge Street, and we bought one of the property, exit in the same plaza, in unit number 14. And we are looking for the opening up the fast food restaurant, takeout only, because there's a lot of requirements down there, been since in almost mile distance, we don't have any restaurant like that, takeout only. And a lot of customers been asking since long time, we should have something like that. And you know the traffic, if they want to go something like this way, is almost like half mileage, like close to Dunkin' Donuts. If they want to go other side, there's almost like 1 mile from that side. So there is no such a requirement down there. There's a lot of Asian, Indian communities around here. And like typical, let's just grab and go, something like that is not around here. And people are looking for a lot and lot, every day by day. So we have so many customers, so many clients. They've been come down and park in the plaza and they say, they do have something, do have something. And we don't have any options right there. So I say, let's get the property, let's see if we can able to get it permit from the town and if we can do something better for the community. And plus, it will be the good asset for the plaza also and good asset for Burlington too, because that kind, what restaurant we are planning to opening, it is like more like a healthy food, bake and boil things, not like a too deep frying and too oily or something like those kind of stuff. So we're looking for more focus on healthy food, which is like a light food, like a Subways and light something like food. So please accept our request and allow us to do another good business. We've been here, we have a really good relation with Burlington Town since 2006. The store has been established since almost 1995. Have a really good relation with Board of Health. We know around the surrounding, the Burlington areas and everybody, so people knows us, what we're doing. So we're just hoping for the best
Great,
and just waiting for your approvals.
great, thank you. Steph?
Sure, so this, this Spice Land is in the corner space, and this, so right next to that corner space, as you look straight, what was it, Boston Beauty Supply was there?
Yes, to the right of Boston Beauty
Yes.
Supply.
Over
So
on the other side, right?
That tenant space, there'll be a kitchen in the back, kind of takeout counter and takeout in the front of the space. What we, the conditions that we just need to put in there is, one, if you have additional dumpsters, then your dumpsters all need to be enclosed on site, as well as we need, if you're doing cooking on site, you're very close to a residential neighborhood, so we would need to make sure that you have odor control in your hood vents or your roof vents to make sure that, an odor control, as much as you said you're not doing a lot of deep frying, so it needs to be enough that it can handle what you're doing. So, I mean, if you're not doing a lot of deep frying, you probably don't need as much, but you do need to make sure that we're respecting the neighbors with odor control.
Oh,
from
yes,
the
we
cooking.
will have all, I did survey before we started everything, because like left, right, front, back, everywhere we have neighborhoods down there, we don't want to bother anybody.
Yep.
So this is the main reason I was planning to do the takeout, because we can apply for the sitting permit, a real good restaurant, and stay over like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, because we don't want to stay in those areas and bothering the people until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. We want to shut down by 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock is done. And plus, we are planning to do the left-hand side, and we're going to have food and everything, so we're going to have kitchen equipments and everything, but as I said before, we're not doing the real big meal making down there, so I don't think there's any real issue down there. For the dumpster, we have a common dumpster down there, plus we're going to have the grease trap as required by the building department and Board of Health, what we
Yep.
needed. And the dumpster, we have, I think, right now, we have 4 times pickup in every week. So we're good for the dumpster. I don't think so we're going to need any extra dumpster. But if we do require, we will look for the association, ask for the association. If we work out something, we can do that. There's no big issue with that.
Okay, yep, and dumpsters need to be enclosed. Otherwise, you mentioned the issue with the, not issue, but the conversation with the Board of Health on the grease traps, and that's all set. So there are no seats associated with this. It's cooking, takeout. So otherwise, we don't have any issues. Thank you.
Did any of the board members have any questions?
One quick question.
Sure.
Do you intend to have any designated parking?
Not really, but there will be the common parking because
Right.
the whatever customer base will we have it, I think 90% customer base will be the same thing.
Okay.
Another 5 to 10% will come and go. That will be the new customer, something like that. But I don't think so we're gonna need special parking or special things on that.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Great. Do you have any questions? No. Just curious, have you ever owned a food establishment or just the marketplace?
No, our own. Yeah. So it will be run by the Spiceland. So we are going to be owner. We're going to have some people down there who are going to work for us, but it will be we want to be under us. So Spiceland will be best. Khatra and Hiran Electric Group will be the main owner of that company, and that will be. I'm the personally myself going to running on that. Yeah.
Great. Last question, the prepared foods, are you going to only sell them out of that facility, or are you going to sell any of the same products in Spiceland?
No.
Right. I don't have any other issues, May I, Joe?
Yeah,
Do you have any questions or comments?
I don't, no, I'm good with it.
Great. May I have a motion, please?
Do we need to ask the?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment or have a question for the applicant? Seeing no one.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on this matter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd further like to make a motion to approve the request of Katra and Harani Realty Group LLC for a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.6.9, fast order food establishments of the zoning bylaws, to permit the operation of fast order food establishment with 0 seats for property located in the general business and water resource zoning districts located at 120 Cambridge Street, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit A attached as amended, or do we have the grease trap in there?
Everything that.
Okay,
all
as
the-
printed. Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thanks
great
for your
night.
time. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take item E out of order.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item E is a public hearing. Application for approval of a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.6.2. Convenience food stores, drug stores, retail stores for sale of beauty and health aids, smoking supplies, periodicals, none with the sale of food intended for consumption on the premises of the zoning bylaws. 226 Cambridge Street, Burlington Smoke Shop Inc. is the applicant. Good evening, folks.
Good evening, Madam Chair. We're back. After our last discussion at the last meeting, Mr. Patel did some exterior changes or proposed changes, and agreed to change the name of the establishment, similar to what was discussed, which I forwarded to staff at some point. So from a aesthetic standpoint, I guess there have been some changes from what has been previously before the board.
For those at home who didn't receive what you sent to staff, can you share the name and
Sure.
things that you shared with staff?
Basically, the proposed new name of the establishment, find my notes here. The proposed name is Bensky Cigar.
Premium cigars.
Yeah.
It's just a logo on the box.
Bensky Premium Cigars. The exterior of the facility will look the same way as it currently does with the white trim around the eight-panel, 8-window doors on each side. he has proposed to put some black valances over the windows, similar to what had been discussed, and trying to get a look similar to, there was a facility from another town that was shown around last week, and he was kind of using that as his guide. So there's a little bit of a different look than, if you look at that, the white sign up in the top left is just a rental sign from the landlord, which obviously will go away once a tenant is in place, so that won't be there. So it's a little bit of a different look. It maintains the white trim, maintains the glass doors as opposed to one full pane of glass. I assume there'll be questions or interest in what's going to happen inside, and Mr. Patel was happy to address that. But frankly, from the cigars will be an important part of what he sells in there, and that is as I understand it, there's a wide range of cigars in both price and origin and all sorts of things, and there are people who take great interest in that. So that'll be a big component of it, but there'll also be other tobacco-type products. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's just proposed to be a cigar store, but that will be maybe more of a priority than he probably had anticipated when he started the venture several months ago. I defer to Mr. Patel as far as any questions the board might have on some of the details of that. But obviously, we're here this evening, still with a special permit application before you, and so we're trying to meet the concerns that have been raised by the board over the past several meetings, and this is our last and best probably effort to do that.
So I think one of the biggest questions that I had, and I know some of my fellow board members had, is, what triggers these doors being locked? What denotes that versus some of the other convenience stores that sell paraphernalia
Yeah.
or smoking paraphernalia versus something like this?
Sure. And staff did send a question about that today. The locked doors, I think, there's nothing requiring that. He can't sell tobacco products or vaping products to somebody under 21, that's state law. But there's nothing to prevent, there's legally or illegally, people under 21 to coming in there. I think he kind of suggested that as a way to alleviate potential concerns about somebody underage coming in and buying vaping products or buying tobacco products. So that's the safety mechanism that he put in place, just so people won't think that kids could buy their ice cream and go in and browse around the smoke shop. So that's, if the perception of that is something that troubles the board, or you don't think that's a good idea, by all means, he doesn't have to do that. That was something that he thought of as a way to alleviate. People always have concerns about underage people getting their hands on certain things. So to your question, Madam Chair, he doesn't have to lock the doors, and if the preference is he doesn't have a system like that because maybe it connotes something's going on in there that people shouldn't know about, he certainly won't do it. He would obviously have to ask for proper ID from anybody looking to purchase a tobacco item or a vaping item, just like if it was in a liquor store or any other variety store in town that sells those types of products. But he doesn't have to lock the door. Like I said, that was something that he kind of just put forward as he thought it might alleviate concerns.
Another concern was, what's visible from the windows. And I know we're tinting, I know that that you proposed tinting and you've proposed awnings. Can you confirm that you won't be seeing any product from windows?
Say that again, what's the question?
That you won't be seeing, if I walk by here with my 5-year-old, she's not gonna say, Mom, what's that giant hookah hanging out of the window? It's not really a conversation I wanna have with her just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way the shop and the windows are, I mean, of course, if you're standing in front of the door, you'll see it, but we're not looking to display anything on the window. We're talking 5 feet, yeah, 5 feet from the door setback. And I think 7 or 8 feet setback from the entry door. So that's a pretty good distance. At the same time, if you look at realistically, every square footage that we're renting a space, we're paying rent on it. So we are taking extra precaution to what has talked in the last 2 meetings. So we said, okay, well, we don't have to display. As you walk in right into the store, we can go back. So that's why we push those shelves on the back. Right of the window and the left of the window is our checkout counter. There's nothing other than the point of sale, which is just a square or one of those POS system. But that's about it. There's nothing exactly where you're highlighting there. There's nothing on that counter other than accepting credit card cash payment for a customer that purchasing something. That will be set on the counter for us to scan. And everything will be sold, will be put on a bag, like paper bag, and people out the window. We're not a lounge, so no one's gonna come in, buy a product, and walk around or sit down or somewhere and start smoking or whatever. We're just retail store strictly. You buy and you go. Let's just say treat it like a liquor store. You go to a liquor store, it's not a bar. You buy it, you take it to go, whether you drink in your friend's home or office or whatever you do, we don't, once people leave, like, we're not here to chase them or what they do. But I got an email, so I'm just answering some of the question that was on the email, like, we're not allowed, so you just buy and you go. Last meeting, you mentioned about keeping the name that's not targeting, like, calling it smoke shop, so that's why I come up with Binsky. Simple name. Anybody driving on Cambridge Street and look to the right of the plaza and see Binsky, they have no clue that's a smoke shop or a cigar shop. The premium cigar on the bottom, it's just a little slogan that I put on. If you don't want it, I don't have to put it. But the name of the shop, DBA, will be Binsky. If you agree to my plan and my vision, we can legalize the name to go back to the Board of Health and take off Burlington Smoke Shop and just call it a Binsky and just keep it simple. But yeah, that's the plan. We also added the awning. The glass can be tinted, like you requested last time. We don't have to, but if you ask me to tint it, I can go as light as possible to as dark as possible. But I don't see any reason because there is no product, absolutely zero product will be sold or displayed on that glass wall. It'll be set back 5 to 10 feet from the counters.
5 to 10 feet on a display that's a lit display? Because 5 to 10 feet.
It's a wall shelves, just mounted on the wall. And then the one in the middles are just standalone displays. That just looks like a jewelry cases that sit
So
there.
they're lit.
There's an LED light, but they don't flash.
I just wanted to ask staff, for the sake of the record, if you could summarize the correspondence we've received?
I was gonna do that after we
Oh.
chatted.
Oh, okay,
If you're
sorry.
okay with that, do you?
I don't really have any other questions.
Okay.
I don't have it with me. I can
Okay.
bring it up on my email if you want to keep talking.
Sure.
about it.
Yep, let's do that.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is to staff. So this requires a special permit because of the smoking supplies, intent to that. With the others, other 2 places, I guess, were noted in town, did they get special permits as well? Smoke shop on Middlesex Turnpike, and there's one that sells smoking supplies, kind of right around the corner from the Old Town Grocery, or,
Yep, so it needs a special permit because it's a convenience store in the town center. Convenience stores in the town center require a special permit. That was something we discussed when we put in the overlay in place. So Middlesex Turnpike, they don't necessarily need the special permit. There is another location in the town center, which I think does need a special permit. And we're figuring that out separately. But this needs a special permit because in the town center, we required convenience stores, which, not necessarily just because of the tobacco, but because of just the convenience store use itself, is usually one that's high traffic, has a lot of, I don't know, just things that, we want to just manage. It has unique impacts that are different than some other uses. But would carry all of the approval criteria for special permits, that, impacts to the neighborhood, that, obviously, I don't have it in front of me, but, and other, compatible uses that's compatible in the neighborhood, et cetera. So I can continue answering, but
No, thank
that
you.
answered your question.
And just my other question is, on the special permit, could we condition it such that we only say what can be sold there? For example, if we say only cigars and cigarettes, to be specific, or if we do the special permit, we can't condition it to any specific items to be sold? I think the main concern here is the hookahs, the bongs, the vapes, all the stuff that goes along with the stuff that would be more inferred to apply to non-typical smoking paraphernalia.
The special permit is on the operation. You can condition it to the extent that it has to do with social, economic, or community needs, traffic flow and safety, adequacy of utilities and public services, neighborhood character and social structures, impacts to the natural environment, and fiscal impact, including impact on town services. So in the way an operation may or may not affect those criteria, you can condition it. So it just, this blank blank would negatively affect the neighborhood character, and therefore we condition it that it's X and Y. That's kind of the way the sentence would need to read. So you just need to make the parallel there as to why you're conditioning it, and to make it sure that it's within the realm of the jurisdiction that you have. In terms of the interior of the space, to the extent that it's viewed from the exterior, you can control. You cannot control the interior of the space that doesn't interact from the outside. So, in terms of like what you can, signage right behind the window, or what you're seeing directly from the front, we can talk about.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Actually, I thought of something. We did not discuss signage in the windows. Is that something that you've thought about, or is it something we can discuss about whether or not you'll have signage in the window?
Can you,
Not your regular sign, but actually in the windows.
Like, there's not gonna be like a marble
there's no
sign.
sign.
or anything
No
like
signs.
that.
no sign, yeah, I think, was it you, Bill?
Yep,
You
that's
mentioned
right.
last time?
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't wanna see those letters like Beverly, so we said, that's easy fix, I don't have to do it, it's cost money anyway, so.
So
we'll
is that
just
in
go
the
with that.
conditions? Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Madam Chair?
please do.
Could I just, if you mind making I just want to make a comment. It's actually not in favor or against, but he said, think of it as a liquor store. I don't really think he understands what our concern is that people coming out of a liquor store are not going to be drinking, sitting at any tables in front of an ice cream store, where people have set their 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds on their bikes, and, kids are hanging out there. They're not going to come out and drink liquor out in that area, but they certainly could come out of that store and vape and smoke whatever they just bought in that store. So I just want to clarify that it's not, I think he doesn't really get what our concern is. Because if it was a liquor store, it's almost, he's saying, okay, maybe that's fine, because they're gonna take the liquor, they're gonna leave, and they're not gonna drink it out in the public areas. Just wanted to make that clarification. I'm not sure he really understands that piece.
Joe, I share your concern, and then, I can think about it in a different respect. If somebody comes out of Shell with a pack of cigarettes or a vape, and wants to sit at the Pocket Park and smoke as well, they're still allowed to do that. You know, I respect Mr. Patel's business ethic, and, you know, I do say kudos to you for saying, you know, you're gonna lock the doors even though you don't have to. I mean, you're actually thinking about, you know, the community and have addressed some of those concerns. But then again, I go back to that same, you know, of what, you know, what it is, and how that is potentially perceived in a very family-friendly area. Paul, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't know, I had a friend when I was in the army, a cigar smoker, but I mean, to me, a cigar's a cigar. But no, he had special cigars, and he'd open them, he'd, you know, smell the odor and so forth. And most cigar smokers, or a lot of them, are really aficionados. And so they're not gonna come out and immediately stick a cigar in their mouth.
It's not the cigars we're worried
It's
about.
not smoking out
It's
here.
not the cigars, it's the people who are just taking the paper of the cigars and putting extracurricular activities in them. That's what we're concerned about.
So you're concerned not about the cigar store, but what's gonna be allowed to be
Sold,
retailed in the cigar store?
that could be used for other uses that we don't want in family-friendly areas.
I don't know how you control that.
And that's where we're all stuck.
Can I ask a question to the
Right,
applicant?
Sure.
When you went through the Board of Health, or just in general, I just don't know the answer, and you might, just general, the requirement, or there's a distance from any place, whether it's this kind of store, any kind of store, that you can't smoke from the door or
Premises.
the premises, is it, I don't know, 25, I don't know what the distance is, but there's definitely a distance.
I don't know the law, but I can answer your question.
Okay.
Or as an experienced owner, which has a very classic traditional smoke shop in Beverly and then Turnpike Market in Billerica, where we have a lot of contractors, stops in, buys a sandwich, 6-pack of beer, goes out. If my eye goes on it, and he's my regular customer, 7 days a week, I will go out till today, and it says, can you please not smoke here in front of my shop? It just, we don't do that. We will continue to do that at Turnpike, in Beverly, and here. It's not the style. From the experience so far in Beverly, I have not seen anyone stand outside and just smoking what they purchase from our shop. They just grab their stuff and run in the parking lot across the street or park on the car, side street, and they just leave. And I'm sure they're probably smoking in their car while they're driving. I seen don't drink and drive on highway. I never seen don't smoke and drive on highway.
Maybe you can put that on your bags.
But like I said, I mean, we will control that. If you ask me to, I can make sure absolutely, because I like ice cream myself. I haven't tried his ice cream next door, but we will if he, and I think it looks nice too without, I mean, I don't want people hanging out and just smoking cigarettes all day long. And then not only that, they're gonna be throwing it on the parking, which will create more trouble. And we run very clean operation. You can look up my review on both locations. You can look up Beverly's review if you wanna pull it up and see what people says about it. We're not just there to collect money and sell you a bong or a cigar or whatever. We take time, we educate, we tell people, what's your style, what are you gonna be smoking with? Or we're there for professional smokers, simple as that.
Staff, I think the distance you're looking for, it's 30 feet.
Okay, I knew that there was something and I couldn't
Yeah,
remember.
it's 30 feet. Again, you know, I'm not expecting people to light a cigar or other things outside that door. I'm more concerned about somebody leaving and then just sitting in the parking, the Pocket Park and enjoying a nice day and saying, okay, well, I'm gonna hang here, and then there's kids going back and forth. I mean, it's just,
But you can't control that,
No,
whether they
you
buy
can't.
it there or somebody
I
else,
know,
someplace else.
and I started that when I said, you know, somebody could go into Shell and have cigarettes and smoke next to my kids as a parent. It's my obligation to take care of, you know, where my kids are.
With respect to the pocket park, I believe you could probably have that as a no smoking zone, so whether they bought it at this facility or brought it with them, there's no smoking there.
We can also put a sign on the window on both sides, no smoking here, straight, like a metal sign. If you ask if you want us to, we can do that, and people will respect that. Most people will do. If they don't, they're gonna get yelled by us. Simple as that.
Okay. Staff, do you want to read the letters that were sent to us?
So, I can read them or I can summarize them. Both of them, came from, I believe, abutters, and both of them kind of went through, mentioned all the other businesses in the area, and the gist was that they don't think that this use is a particularly family-friendly use, and the area is a very family-friendly area, and they wouldn't want, again, they wouldn't want their kids walking past a smoke shop as they're gonna go get, like, you know, a smoothie from True North, and then, you know, so, I think that for both of the letters you received, that was the main, the crux of the issue for them. It was the use.
May I ask staff a question? Sure. So this is a special permit. If we had a full board, they would need 5. We don't have a full board. We only have 5 tonight. We could have 6 in the future. If we have 6, they still need 5. So tonight, they need everyone. So I might advise you not to continue to the next meeting because you don't have a full board. In fairness to the applicant, I want to suggest that you might consider that. Because if one person votes no tonight, you're denied. But if we have the 6th person and one person votes no, you're approved.
I appreciate the idea, and I've thought of it. I guess from our standpoint, obviously, we've been in here now 3 times, and, you know,
I know.
he's got to do what he's got to do. If he's successful in this, there's build out. The landlord is kind of getting antsy.
I understand. I just wanted to make sure you thought of
And I
it.
appreciate that, but, you know, we could very well come back in, and if 2 of you vote against it, then, you know, we just wasted another 2 weeks, so.
I agree.
I
Okay.
think it's, and I appreciate the concern, and you know, we've obviously been talking about this now for a month. You know, we hope that we've tried to do the best we can to address the concerns. I think the chair's point is well taken. You can get your ice cream and walk past this empty store and walk over to the Shell station and get a cigarette and a cigar if you want, and so I don't think we're necessarily, the board would necessarily be keeping this type of a use out of the general vicinity, because it's already there, frankly. To its degree, you know, maybe not to the extent that it would be in this store, but what's being sold is already being sold at other variety stores in the center of town.
I mean, they sell cigarettes.
I think
They
they sell
sell-
vapes too.
They do?
Yeah.
They can sell
Yeah.
cigar.
Well, I'm sure they
Yes.
could sell cigars. They probably don't. We're not
Okay.
worried about the cigars,
Well,
though.
yeah, I think
So-
that they do sell like,
They sell vapes.
I know they, well, I don't know personally, but I'm fairly confident they sell vapes, and I think most grocery stores, most convenience stores and gas stations do now.
So my point is, the use is already there. Other people have been doing it, it's been there for a long time. I haven't seen an overabundance of people buying things at the Shell station and go hanging over the ice cream store, so could happen, but the only thing I would leave you with is you have a responsible business owner here, which I think you're all familiar with to some degree because of his other establishments. It's gonna cost him money to do the build-out, stock the place, run the place. It's an investment on his part. So he's gonna do a good job because he has a record of doing a good job. The product that he's going to be selling here is readily available otherwise in town. So you would be preventing him from selling something that other people are able to. The Shell station's in the town center district. I don't know if they get a special permit, but they're selling it. So the point is you've got a vacant spot in the middle of town. It's been vacant for a year or 2 now. You've got somebody who wants to take it up. He's going to do a nice aesthetic job as well as he can do down in that area. He's gonna run a good establishment, and he's a good businessman. My opinion is, I think you should have the opportunity to do that.
I don't think they sell everything that you will be selling at convenience stores.
I don't think you walk into a convenience store and see a hookah that you'd see on Alice in Wonderland kind of thing. I think that, you know, there are other stores that sell glass pipes, there are other stores that sell cigar wraps, which for all intents and purposes are used for primarily one thing. I think that they also sell vapes at, you know, places like Shell and other
Can I
stores.
ask, if the products that we're concerned with, that you're concerned with, are they visible from outside the store?
Well, that's what we can condition, so they won't be, because he's assured us that they won't be, and we can condition that if we decide to approve.
Madam Chair?
Please.
Can I ask you a question? I'm gonna ask flat out, will there be paraphernalia that's used in I guess, the consumption of drugs and, you know, marijuana, and I know it's legal to a certain degree. My concern is more bringing the clientele that will be brought in from maybe other towns to be buying paraphernalia in there and things. Oh, my God. You know, what was that? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Please mute whoever that was. So Joe, I guess I could probably say that you can put anything in a pipe.
Well, we don't sell that.
Are you gonna sell any pipes or any?
No, we sell pipe, but we don't sell any marijuana.
No, I understand that, but it's the paraphernalia of what you can put in such product. And it's up to that person what they're gonna do with it.
Yeah, so I guess that's my question. You know, if, you know, there's huge regulation on marijuana sales locations, and, you know, there's all kinds of, you know, laws that regulate and all that. My concern is, you know, from where are we gonna be drawing people to be purchasing paraphernalia from this shop? And, you know, my big thing is this, you know, if it was a cigar shop, I'd be like, okay, you know, do your thing, but, you know, when my kids were, turned 10 and 12 years old, the first location you know, you said, yeah, you wanna go with your friends down on a bike by yourselves and get an ice cream and hang out there and have your ice cream or whatever. There's a lot of people that feel very comfortable with the kids going down and hanging out and having an ice cream out there. I'm not sure how comfortable people may be with that type of paraphernalia being sold literally in the storefront next to the ice cream shop. And it's a shame that, you know, people may not be able to let the kids go out and do those things because they're afraid of, you know, maybe the clientele that goes in and purchases. It's not a liquor store. It's a paraphernalia shop is basically what it is, and it's being called a cigar shop. So that's I guess my big concern, you know, so I'm just one person, but I don't, you know, I just want to I think he's missing the point of what my concern, and I think some of the other members' concerns are. That's all I'm saying. Right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. What's the ratio of cigars and tobacco products versus paraphernalia? What you're selling?
In Beverly, I would say we sell,
No, I don't,
I mean,
Beverly is great. I want to know about Berlin.
I'm just saying, based on my experience, I don't know, I mean, I haven't done business in this town, so I can't speak for something that's not existed.
What's your intent?
10-15% is total accessories. That include battery, coils, glass accessories. You mentioned hookah a couple times. I don't sell hookah, and I'm not planning to sell hookah in this shop.
What about bongs?
We will sell it, yes. But it's not your every other customer's purchase, because what you can do with bong, not everybody wants to do with it, like they said. So we sell it, but not that much. It's 15% of our total sale.
We could restrict bongs, right?
Because it's not, because what people use bongs for, nobody's smoking tobacco out of a bong.
Not to
Categorically, it's easier to, like, if he's saying 15% of other smoking paraphernalia, we can do something like that, but to say no selling bongs and hookahs is goes a little further than I think we should be going. I understand where you're getting at, but
It's kind of my sticking.
as I said, you need to, I mean, you just need to make that connection if you want to make, so you can't sell this because this is not good for the social care. I mean, you just, or that you only can sell this amount of this because more of it would be negative. I mean, which is easier to do it quite categorically of this type of thing is.
To me, there's also a concern, legal definition of what's a bong, one constitutes a bong, where they draw the line from whatever bongs do to whatever the next thing.
Right, that's why it's a little easier categorically to limit amount.
Are there any restrictions to the sale of the things that we're talking about? In other words, all the drug paraphernalia, are they all legal?
The paraphernalia can have multi-purpose.
I don't know how this,
And so you could use tobacco, you could put marijuana in it. I mean,
Sure.
if you want to go
Right.
extreme, people could put some pretty crazy things in a pipe,
Sure.
and smoke it. I mean, this is kind of where, you know, I feel like our reservation comes from.
Yeah. Well, if the board feels that this business really doesn't belong there, I think we should just say, rather than go through a lot of angst and discussion about things that I don't know about, fortunately, yet.
Yeah, maybe in your next life.
Hey, listen, anything can happen. I think legally, hopefully as a board, we have the authority to refuse to allow a business where we think the disadvantages are going to exceed the advantages, and just say, we have no problem with this product being sold because it's legal, but we just don't think this is a location considering what's going on there now. So I'm sure they'll find another retail location of some type to put in that spot. So I'd say, let's just turn it down. We'll feel that we've done the right thing. And if they come to us legally or whatever, well, that's what we have town council.
I don't want to rely on town council for our decisions.
Say what?
I said, I don't want to rely on town council for our decisions or,
No, I don't need that.
but,
Right.
Well,
right.
if you do what you think is the right thing,
I understand.
with me, it helps with my sleep. I always say, I should have done that.
Okay, so I guess, I think that you're kind of hearing where we're going here. Either we can continue and wait for 1 or 2 more members, you can withdraw, or you can have, we can go for a vote.
Did you hear about the summary?
did we ask the public?
We haven't, but I don't know that that's gonna make
We
it.
might not have to.
I mean,
Just for the record, I know that we had.
There is, Sally Willard does have her hand raised.
I'm sorry, Sally.
I don't know if she's.
Thank you.
Ms. Willard?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I was just bringing dinner in from the grill. I'm confused by the board's reaction to this company and what they're selling. I don't think that because someone is selling marijuana or whatever implements of consumption that that's a really valid to not allow the cigar seller to sell cigars. I think that the fellow, and I don't recall his name, has said that, it's a small percentage, even in the other locations that he has. And what he's what the store is selling, cigars, cigarettes, all of that is not, there's nothing illegal in that. And you can't walk out of a store with a bong or a hookah and light up, because that in itself is illegal. And I guess I'm not sure why, if he doesn't have like neon lights on and signs and, giant hookahs in his, or bongs in his windows, I'm not sure why there's such concern. I mean, it's a cigar shop. You can go to a liquor store. You used to be able to go to CVS, and you can still go to Market Basket and buy cigarettes, buy tobacco products. And my guess is, although I haven't looked recently, and I haven't asked recently, my guess is that you can also buy rolling paper to make your own cigarettes. So I'm confused that we're so focused on what might happen in the future, that it's just, he's got a business to run. And I don't think you can say to him, hey, we don't want you to sell rolling paper, cigarette papers there. Even if he wasn't selling everything else, I just think it's kind of over the top. But of course, that's just my humble opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally.
Is there anyone else in the audience that has a question, comment, concern?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Is anyone else?
Anyone else?
Yeah.
I have Mr. Jeff DeBona with his hand up.
Hi, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah?
Yes,
Yeah, I want to echo pretty much what Sally just said as well. The guy's trying to run a business in town, and if people are going to be doing things with things that are illegal, you can't smoke marijuana publicly. The law states you have to consume on private property of your own doing. It sounds like more of a police issue than a planning issue. If someone was lighting up in the parking lot, I'm sure the store owner would be calling the cops and being like, hey, someone is smoking marijuana in the parking lot. Can you please address this? It'd be great to fill a space in town for a small business. He runs a nice spot at Turnpike Market. I think it'd be great to fill in a vacant spot and see another small business succeed in the center of town. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else?
I have Chris Warren, their hand raised.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Can you turn up the volume? It's hard to hear her.
Yeah, can you speak into your microphone a little bit closer?
Yes. Can you hear me more now?
No.
No,
Goodness, let me try again.
Chris, we're working on the volume. Just don't want the next person.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's better. Thank you.
I appreciate this thoughtful discussion, and I think, there's points on both sides. I think what the issue here is that it's next to an ice cream store where, the soccer teams go to celebrate, or whatever. A lot of kids go there. Even if it was 3 doors down, it would make a difference. I think it's because it's next to probably the only ice cream shop in the whole town, that is very, known to families, and people, go to Simon's Park and then go to Schoolhouse Ice Cream. it's the location. I think that this would be welcomed pretty much anywhere in Burlington, but perhaps not next to that ice cream store. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, one comment?
Sure.
Bingo. That's exactly right. What, you know what? I got no problem with that shop, really. I don't have any problem with that shop within the town of Burlington. My only problem with it is whether, I'm not saying they're gonna smoke marijuana out there, but they, you know, we may be bringing kids from a lot of locations around to buy vape products, and they come out and they smoking them out there. I wouldn't want my kid out there amongst all, you know, it just, I wouldn't. So it's just, it's a bad location. Move it, like Chris Warren said, move it to another storefront. I have no problem with it. It's just a bad location. That's really my only concern. And I, you know, nobody's, Mr. Damona, if that was his name, was, you know, it has nothing to do with that. No one's saying they're gonna come out and start smoking pot out there. It's just, you know, you're gonna be bringing people for, you know, clientele, a certain kind of clientele that's looking for vaping and, you know, cigars, whatever they do, you know, and it's right next to a location where people are sending their 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds for the first time with their friends to hang out and have an ice cream. And I just think it's a tough, being right next to the ice cream shop, it's a tough location. That's all. Just a clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, are you ready for a motion? Is there something, hold on one second. Is there something in the chat box that just popped up?
I will check.
I really just had something to.
Sally Willard has written, if this were a convenient shop where tobacco products can be sold, would the store be objectionable? That's her question.
Not for regular tobacco.
Store that sells, there are things that this shop will be selling that a convenience store that also sells tobacco products would not be selling.
Well, I think we already said that there's another convenience store that is selling things, and that, you know, we're looking into it because they should have received a special permit for the, you know, the same reason.
For a convenience store.
For a convenience store.
Talking about this convenience store.
Well, we are talking about, remember we said that the convenience store that's over by the used bookstore.
Yeah, that's right, that's my point.
Right.
But,
So, yeah, like, if we knew that going into it, I think we would have had the same concerns, no?
if they were selling, yeah, I mean, if what the issues that you're pointing out are sold at, if you call it a convenience store, call it a smoke shop, or call it a cigar shop, if at the issue is things that would be sold regardless of the name, I mean, that's pretty.
I don't think we have the same concern because of the location.
Right.
I think that'd be a good location for it. You know, versus this one.
The question is, I think that we ought to ask the proponent if they want a vote from the board of 4, or do they want to wait till next meeting?
We did ask.
Because this is the kind of thing that you can, you know.
Agreed. So we'll ask the question again. Would you like to wait until we potentially have 7 members? Would you like us to vote as we are, or would you like to withdraw?
I would offer them that we would put them first on the.
He was second. That first one was really quick. So I mean, we can do that.
No, and I appreciate the offer. I think we're kind of at the point now where we, you know, I think it's been talked enough, and frankly, we'd prefer a vote, because frankly, if there's a vote to the negative, my client has options for that too. If we just withdraw, then we've just wasted our time. I would just, not to beat a dead horse, but just less closing argument, if you will. If, in my personal opinion, and I've lived in this general vicinity for a long time, and my kids used to go to the ice cream store too, and all that type of stuff. I just feel it's being a bit overblown over, the concern is a little higher than, in my opinion, it should be, that young children down getting an ice cream is somehow going to be poisoned, if you will, by a facility next door that sells tobacco products. Because you can get them at the Shell station, you can get them at the Shell station up at the Common. That's another one that's in the town center district, I believe, that, to my knowledge, it doesn't have a special permit, but it sells tobacco products. You can get rolling papers at any of those places, so people can go in and get rolling papers, and who knows what they're gonna roll, and it's kind of scary, but it's probably not gonna happen right out front. And I just think it's been a bit overblown, and I would second everything that Sally Willard said, because I think she put it very succinctly, that if you have a responsible business owner who's running a responsible business, then he's in it to make money, so he's not going to be doing something that's going to torpedo his own business, because that would be stupid. I think as a parent in town, I would have a fair amount of comfort in letting my child go down and get an ice cream without worrying about something nefarious going on in the facility right next door. And then on top of that, from a business standpoint, I think we all want to promote business in town, small businesses as well as large businesses. And we have a vacant spot right in the middle of town that doesn't do anybody any good. And unfortunately, somebody who wants to start a business can't just go say, I think I want to put my business in this space over here. Could you move? Because that's where I want to go. You have to take what's available, and then you have to make the investment, and you got to do your research, and you open your business, and you try to make a living out of it. So that's what Mr. Patel wants to do. And this space is the space that's open. He doesn't have the ability or the flexibility to go 3 doors down and do it there. And I really don't think the proximity to immediately next to the ice cream store versus 30 feet down the driveway to the ice cream store makes the bill of beans in the big picture. I just don't think as negative situation as I think maybe some people are concerned that it's going to become. And that would be my last thought on the issue.
The applicant, so you have said that approximately 10 to 15% of your business is the paraphernalia, and the other one would presume 85 to 90% is tobacco products, cigars, cigarettes, and I guess vapes would go in that category?
Yep.
Okay. If it is that smaller percentage, would you be willing to do without it? And if you can't answer that question now, that's fine.
No, I'll just say no.
Okay, I understand. I just thought it was worth asking. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair,
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on this matter.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Madam Chair, I would further like to make a motion to approve the request of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.9, convenience food stores, drugstores, retail stores for sale of beauty and health aids, smoking supplies, periodicals, none with the sale of food intended for consumption on the premises of the zoning bylaws, to permit the operation of a retail smoke shop by the name of Cambridge Street Smoke Shop for the property located in the Central Business District located at 214 Cambridge Street, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit A attached.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, a couple things, the conditions.
Is Paul voting?
Paul?
Paul, are you voting?
You voted aye.
Oh. So we have,
It's facing you guys.
we need 5, 4, 1.
All right, so you don't have I mean, you have a failed motion.
Yep,
Okay.
So failed motion is not a denial, but it's not an approval. It's a failed motion.
It's not denial? Okay,
You're not voting to deny, and we don't have a decision to deny. So therefore, my point in saying that is for your criteria of approval and all the reasons you're denying, we haven't spelled that out. So you can withdraw the motion. What's the purpose of that? And
Reconsider it the next
We can
meeting.
withdraw, we can reconsider until Ernie is back and somebody else is back.
I mean, you're 4-1, so you close the public hearing, you don't have anything. It's just a failed motion. So they don't have an approval, they don't have a denial. I mean, they can appeal a failed motion, but we don't have any.
Why don't you open the public hearing again, if that's what you want to do?
No, you don't need to open it, you don't need to open the public hearing again, but you can withdraw the motion and we can,
Withdraw the motion and then we consider
We
the
can-
motion
we can-
in 2 weeks only without public comment, just the
right,
motion.
it's still just a decision
I
that we,
would recommend that you folks do that.
I lost the last part of that, I'm sorry.
So you can withdraw right now and then come back when
Well,
we
I
have.
think we would withdraw the motion.
Right.
If you wanted us to do that, and then you would come back in 2 weeks when there are 6 of us.
and we'd vote again. So Barbara,
We would we would not have discussion again, we would just have a vote.
Okay,
but Barbara, you need to formally withdraw the motion as the one who made the motion.
Right, I just wanted to know if the applicant wants.
Under that presentation, we'd be willing to come back and,
Yeah.
prefer not to go through the whole.
Well, you wouldn't, because we closed the public hearing, it would only be.
No, it's just, yeah,
Vote.
just they vote.
wouldn't, because
And Ernie,
leave.
would need, just that he was up to speed
Yep,
That would be agreeable.
to vote.
okay. And
Madam Chair, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay,
Okay, so this is, I mean, it's continued, the public hearing isn't continued, but you will be voting at the next meeting.
Yes.
understood. And so this motion is gonna be revised, so it doesn't say Cambridge Smoke Shop, it's gonna say Binsky and, everything else that we've discussed.
Yes. And can we put in the decision that the sale of paraphernalia, not including cigars, cigarettes, and vapes, shall not exceed 15%?
Yeah, we'll figure out how to categorically say that.
If you, I appreciate that, but if you could somehow, to some black and white degree, define what paraphernalia is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't really know what it is.
If the applicant,
That would
Thanks,
help
define.
too.
if the applicant would like to suggest a definition of what we're talking about.
Or maybe we just do it the other way and we say at least 85% of the merchandise offered is cigars, cigarettes, vapes, and
That's a
just
interesting.
everything else falls into the 15%.
I think that makes.
I would just approve or not approve.
Okay, so you have withdrawn you've withdrawn, you've voted to withdraw the motion. So there is no motion and we'll consider it at the next meeting, but no public testimony.
Yep, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I think we can,
Administrative matters.
yes,
Where I,
we're going back to the beginning, point 6 on page 2.
Oh, yes, we're presentation.
Yes, and,
Losing Joe at this point. Bye, Joe. Have a good night, Joe.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, gonna hang, oh, awesome.
We're doing 135 or we're?
Are we doing 130? Do we need to do 130? Do we need to do 135?
All of those are recommendations.
Yeah, they just stand
So
out.
they're not, so we needed, all 5 of you for the special permit decisions.
Okay.
Yep.
So, everything else is just a recommendation vote, so it's a majority, just a simple majority.
Got it. So
You're
Joe,
right, but I thought that, I figured that was one of the, the downtown overlay, so I wanted to kind of be part of that, but I didn't know. So you're not gonna take that one on board, or is that?
Okay, do you want,
it's up to the chair. I'm
Madam
fine with
Chair,
that.
what do you
I'm
want
fine
me
with
to
that.
do?
I'm sorry. Do
I
you
would
mind?
like to do the secret.
Sorry, John.
Um,
All right, so then let's see, where are we? So that would
So sorry.
be item
Sorry.
F?
No, it's A.
Item A,
it's 7A.
okay, thank you.
Sorry, John.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take item A out of order.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
And B2?
A and B together
and
for
B.
discussion.
Oh, sorry, A and B together for
Second.
discussion purposes.
Pages A and B.
Page
Great.
4.
4. That's what I meant.
So I guess we need to vote again, because I said A, and it should be A and B.
Okay.
Bill seconded.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item A is a continued public hearing, petition to amend the zoning bylaw, Article 3 districts, Article 4 use regulations, and Article 8 overlay districts, 8.5.0 town center, to create a new zoning district, town center multifamily TCM, submitted by Novea Real Estate Ventures LLC. Item B is a continued public hearing, petitions to rezone property to the town center multifamily TCM district, 135, 137, 137R, 139A, and 139 Cambridge Street, submitted by Novea Real Estate Ventures LLC. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn here with Peter Carboni, who's with Novaya, the applicant petitioner for the rezoning petition. So I know we've had the opportunity to be before the board now, I want to say 4, maybe 5 times on this. And at the last meeting that we were at a couple of weeks ago, I know the board just wanted to look at the language one last time before making a recommendation. Obviously, it was a bigger board then, but you know, the language has not changed from what was before you last time that Kristen had presented. What has changed, or just to update the board, is since your meeting, we did have an opportunity to appear before both the Land Use Committee, and they voted favorably, a favorable recommendation on the warrant articles. And then similarly, we met with the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee, and they recommended favorably as well on both. So I think to some degree, the board may have been wanting to get that input on both, but both of those were favorable. So we obviously have, you know, put a lot of time into this and trying to come up with a format and a concept that works to be able to, you know, redevelop a property that I think many folks feel is very worthy of redevelopment in the manner that we've, you know, proposed in terms of the renderings and things. So we're hopeful and optimistic that the board would vote favorably, a favorable recommendation on this. Obviously, we've got town meeting coming up next month, but I didn't want to, Peter, if you have anything to add to it in terms of, you know, we continue to feel like the project makes a lot of sense, and the zoning bylaw itself provides the town with the utmost protection to make sure that it would just be this specific property initially, unless the town in the future were to decide that there's others that they would like to rezone. So,
Great, thank you. Staff, do you have anything you would like to add to that?
I don't have anything more to add than what we talked about at the last meeting. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I still have concern about this one. I did have an opportunity now to go over the revised language there. One is on, looks like 8.5.9, or maybe it's 8, at the end of 8, where it says the proposed development will enhance and/or provide for improved outdoor recreation space for on-site residents. So I think where I have concern about that is that, you know, it's for the improvement of on-site residents, where, you know, we've got to take a look at these things and for the, you know, for the benefit of the town and for other residents, not just the people on site. As this is a zoning change for, again, it's written for this space where it says for the on-site residents, where it's an overall, you know, town center bylaw change. I go to 8.5.4.2.1.2. Basically, it's deleting the entire section about putting the moratorium on the housing. So again, the focus really has been on this site, but again, I always look at this as the bigger picture, that this is being impacted for the entire town center. It's basically removing the housing moratorium, which I think that's a town decision, which the town should have brought this versus an applicant who, you know, has a concern and focus on this one particular site, you know, on Cambridge Street, not Cambridge Road, but So I look at that, and the people in the town center that are butters weren't notified of that. That's a big concern of mine, because it's gonna be impacting to them. So that's kind of my concern still on this one, that it's very, very focused on the particular property. It was written that way by the applicant, not by the town, and that, the folks in the town center that are gonna be impacted later on weren't here for, or at least notified for public hearing. My question maybe to staff is, from the land use and zoning bylaw, were those unanimous votes in favor, or?
We were not at those meetings.
Oh, okay.
Mark, please.
I can tell you that the zoning bylaw review committee was a unanimous vote. And my understanding is that the land use committee was 5-1 in favor of the first article, which is the text amendment. And
Yep.
then 5-0-1 on the second article, which is rezoning the property into the new district. So,
And just with regards to that, the section on the waivers, which I think, Mr. Gaffney, you were pointing to, most of those waivers are not going to apply to us, because I think we may only need none or one waiver. And it's not like height, it's not like dimensional, we're staying out of the buffer zone. It would be something for like impervious. We may go, the requirement would be to have 40% pervious space. I think we're at like 38 or 39%. So we're not like putting another story on or all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the waiver language that was actually left so that if somebody else comes down the road and proposes another property anywhere in the district, you, as the planning board later on, would have flexibility to say.
Yeah, my thought here is that this, when you said this makes a lot of sense. It doesn't to where I sit from a planning board standpoint, because we've got, in parallel to this, we've got the MBTA one. So we've got to put multifamily housing, we have to, right, as a requirement, in different places in the town. So I'm not saying I'm opposed to this particular parcel, but how this was written, it applies to the entire town center, and in a period of time, and soon, we're gonna have to basically do the same thing, but we have the ability as the town, instead of the applicant, to define what is gonna be in that multi-housing areas, and this can be one of them. So we're gonna do this, if the town does this, what are we talking? 3-6 months from now, we're gonna have to do another overlay, and it's probably gonna be some in the town center, and probably this one, and probably other ones, to incorporate the MBTA one. So I think, again, I'm not saying I'm not in favor of this particular site, but the way this is written, and the timing of it, and whether it makes sense now, I don't think it does, because we have to do the MBTA one anyway, and then we win with that one. And then that takes care of this in particular, so that's my personal opinion. We're gonna do double duty.
If I
And then
could,
the whole town center is potentially impacted. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair? May I?
Please.
I'm actually, it's funny that interesting that the way you presented it, because I'm kind of in a similar quandary, and I wanted to explain the way I intend to vote, because it might not make sense if I didn't explain it. I do not agree that we're ready to make this zoning change. I don't think it's completely thought out, and I want us to have more time to plan it out for all the reasons Bill stated. That having been said, if town meeting decides to grant the zoning change, I would be in favor of your property being rezoned to that, because I think you've done a good job planning this. So you're going to get a split vote for me, and I just kind of wanted to explain that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Member LaRue on that one. I'd probably do the same thing. Thank you.
To save time, and because it would take twice as long to say it, I second what Bill said.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
So,
just to make sure I'm understanding you, Barbara.
Yes.
And Bill and Paul. So if town meeting was to vote and agree on this, you would be in favor of this property. We're gonna have to come back and rezone anyways.
No, what I'm saying is, I'm going to vote no on A, because I don't feel like we've done enough work on it, and I feel like we need to look at the entire town center and make this decision for all the properties. However, if that passes anyway, despite my recommendation.
Sure.
then the zone is there. I have no problem with this property being rezoned that way.
Understood. Joe, are you still with us?
Yes, yep, I'm here.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I've pretty much said what I still feel the same way I've been speaking all along. I feel like the site, if it was anything but housing, would generate too much traffic for that stretch, and I feel like this is a great location for the housing, and, I still maintain that, so,
That's item B. That's item B, Joe. What about item A?
well, I'm,
I agree with you about item B.
yeah. Well, I'm in favor of the project, so.
So the project's B,
Project is B. Rezoning is A.
rezoning the whole town center to.
Yep.
To lift the moratorium is A.
Right.
I think there's an important clarification to make to what Member Gaffney just said, because respectfully, that's actually not accurate. We're not looking to rezone the entire town center.
Oh.
It's the only property that's being zoned to this specific property. And I want to be clear on it. I might be repetitive to what we've said before, but if A passes the text amendment, then only town meeting at a future town meeting, whether it's 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, they're the ones that have the ultimate control to be able to determine whether any other parcel is capable.
Yeah, but you have lifted the moratorium, which is on 8.5.4.2. You crossed it out. That's gone.
That has to be, Bill. I mean, if that stayed in there.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, that's exactly what this is lifting the moratorium. Town meeting can put in particular parcels now, but that's what this did, it flipped it.
But it
Now it gives it a different tool to put in housing, instead of stopping it altogether.
Yeah, but I mean, the moratorium, that language couldn't stay because it would be.
It's unstable.
So, yeah, but we're not looking to lift it throughout the entire town.
Right, because you want a particular site, which I get, because to avoid spot zoning, which we talked about earlier.
I think,
Thank you.
well, I completely understand that, Gaffney, your comment about we may be the town of Burlington may be 6 months away from trying to figure out the MBTA thing. I totally sensitive, respectful of that, and recognize that's definitely an issue. I think we've tried to only separate this to not get tied into that, because this could be used as a tool to help with that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything get converted over. So I understand where you're coming from on that with regards to the MBTA, and it might just be terrible timing.
I think it is.
I get that. We tried to come up with something that allowed the project to go through, does lift the moratorium, but doesn't lift it where every other project is gonna end up with housing as of right, as town meeting votes on it. So we thought it was the most protective, where it allows the zoning, but it also requires town meeting vote. And then the as of right piece was to address the MBTA in here. If we converted to a special permit or something, made that to be okay with us, couldn't be eligible under the MBTA, but then you might have to unwind that later on. So that's a delicate decision. So I respect where you're coming from on it. We just felt it's really the only legal way we could come up to protecting the town going forward, but also help going forward with the project. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
I would note that not everybody is all excited about the MBTA in here.
Right.
I've heard that said, well, you gotta do this to get the MBTA. And people said, well, I don't want the MBTA.
You know what, that takes away a lot of grants and a lot of funding that the community receives,
that's
and I don't think that people take that into consideration either.
Right, but I think that's a big discussion we have to have that's not on you.
Well, to me,
That's correct.
that's town meeting. I'm perfectly happy in yes and knowing on anything that I think is really the planning board's responsibility.
Right, sure.
But when it comes to zoning, I stand back to see what
Right.
town meeting wants
Well,
to do, because that's.
all we're doing
the
is
way it was set
recommending.
up.
Yeah,
Right.
town meeting is going to make the decision on this, not us. We're just
Correct.
recommending. So can we, do we still, I'm not sure.
This is still a public hearing, so
Okay.
we need to close the vote. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of this matter? Sherry, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're a little spotty.
The connection is really bad. You guys have been spotty all night, so apologies if I don't get the right question here, but I wanted to respond to Mr. Gaffney's question about the criteria, the last criteria about for the residents of that particular proposal. I don't know if the versions are different, but I'm reading what I think is in the warrant that says the proposed development will enhance or provide for improved outdoor recreational space for residents and/or other community benefit. So to me, that doesn't mean that it's just the residents of that particular proposed unit complex. It could be for other community benefit in the town. And I think that was a later version, and I'm not sure. I'm hoping that's what's in the warrant. That's the version that ZBRC approved, and that was one of the reasons.
You're correct.
Okay, that's not the version I have in front of me. I didn't have the latest version. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam. Yeah.
Okay, so that's, I wanted to state that and make sure that that was correct, that I was on board with that. The other thing I just wanted to say was ZBRC, as far as what we're charged to do, is we're charged to review our zoning bylaws, but also any proposal that comes before us. And that was our charge for this, is we reviewed it, we looked for clarity. We did actually have one small little grammar change in one of the things that we'll present on the floor of town meeting. It doesn't change any context of anything. So we reviewed it for that. And that was our charge. And that's what we did, is we reviewed something that, came before us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for clarifying that for us. Is there anyone else in the audience that has a question, comment, concern?
I do not see anybody else with a raised hand.
Great. May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to close these matters, close the public hearing on these matters.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Then next, let's see, I would like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to amend the zoning bylaw, Article 3, Districts, Article 4, Use Regulations, and Article 8, Overlay Districts, 8.5.0 Town Center, to create a new zoning district, Town Center Multifamily. So the motion is to recommend favorably.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So 2-3-0. And then, Madam Chair, I would further like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to amend the zoning bylaw and zoning map to create a new zoning district to be called, wait a minute. Are there two?
Is that motion not correct?
No, just to petition to amend this zoning map to be.
I just wanted to make sure that this is correct.
No. And to petition to amend the zoning map.
Okay.
To rezone properties at 135, 137, 137, but you can continue.
Yeah, so that's, okay, so I can cut out some of that.
Yep.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to rezone properties at 135, 137, 137R, 139A, and 139 Cambridge Street into the Town Center Monthly Family District submitted by Novaya Real Estate Ventures LLC, subject to the developer and the select board entering into a development agreement prior to a vote at town meeting, which includes the following provisions as printed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
So then that's
4-1-1.
4-1-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that passes. Well, not
Thank
pass
you.
you.
So it's been
It's just
a lot of time. Could I just ask one question? If in this, just because it may dictate strategy at town meeting a little bit, if it were a special permit, would it make a difference to you all?
Yeah, we could probably deny it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Instead of a
If it was required, if it was allowed by special permit, not as of right.
I'd ask.
Meaning it was totally a void of the MBTA discussion.
Oh.
That's the question is really, it comes down to, if someone happens to make a motion at town meeting to say, let's amend the zoning so it's not as of right, so it's only by special permit.
Oh,
So then
okay.
it can't apply to the MBTA. The MBTA then is out. It's not even part of the conversation.
Yeah,
Would it make a difference? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no,
would it make a
typically,
difference?
my experience is that with the special permit, you typically see applicants suing if they don't get their way on that one. You know what I mean? So that's just my thought, so I don't think it makes a
Well,
big
then
difference
it's
to me.
completely, our thought was, and they came in originally as special
Yeah.
permit. Our thought was, we need to make this phase one of what we are gonna need to do anyway. So we wanna make sure that this was crafted, so it met the statutory criteria that is 40A Section 3, which is by right 15 units an acre, family, house, like not age restricted, which this is. And so therefore, this would qualify under
Okay,
anything
I
moving
understand.
forward. So
Yeah.
I didn't get this sense from you guys that special permit was the deciding factor
I don't
here.
think that was it. Yeah.
And anyway, but just,
Yep.
it was definitely working with the applicant to make sure that this, why are we doing it if it's not going to get credit in something that
Right.
is kind of a mandate that we need to figure out how to meet.
Right.
So that was critical for at least our recommendation.
So to answer your question, I don't think it would have made
It's a
it.
complicated issue only in that it takes
Yeah.
that potential issue off the table as part of, because I respect what Mr. Gaffney was talking about in terms of the timing may just be difficult and so forth. So it just, it may be the thing that helps. If it alleviates some people's, in their mind that it's not, okay, we're leaving, today's about this, the MBTA will be down the road.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Have a
it.
good evening.
Everybody. All right, thanks. Thanks again.
We have a question. We are
Right.
going back to
Administrative
the most
manager.
patient man in the free world, Mr.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
We're going back to where?
We're going back to
To
Article
Administrative
33,
matters.
administrative matters.
Page 2.
Got it, thank you.
John, thank you so much for your patience.
Please come join us.
Hope you didn't have any plans tonight.
I don't think anyone makes plans if they have a planning board meeting.
Well, I was able to design 3 more sculptures and write 2 more songs for this. It was,
Can't wait
it
to hear
was
them.
time well spent. I just wanted to make a short presentation to the planning board because there's a committee that is bringing a warrant article to town meeting in May 9th.
Is this a town meeting committee? You said there's a committee.
It's a committee, it's an independent committee to pass the CPA in Burlington, the Community Preservation Act.
I love it.
Okay.
I tried to, as soon as this came out, I went right to the chair to Bob Mercier, I believe at that time. I said, we gotta do this.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we don't.
For the record, would
It
you
was-
please state
it
your
was a
name?
shame.
Let me just give you, I have a 2-sided sheet, and I think you all have a
Just-
copy of this. I'm just going to run these bullet points pretty fast.
We just need you to state your name for the record.
Was that?
State your name for the record,
Oh,
please.
this is John Sachs,
Thank you.
Chairman of the Committee to pass the Community Preservation Act in Burlington.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, John.
Yes.
Can I interject just 1 second?
Sure.
I appreciate you guys accommodating me tonight. I just want, for the record, to go on record. I'm very familiar with the community preservation. I've heard it as a selectman, heard it as a planning board member. For the record, I'm in favor of it. So, and I need to leave the meeting, but
Thanks, Joe.
wanted to let that know.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good evening. Bye, Joe.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was, the act was passed in the year 2000 by the Commonwealth because they noticed in towns, in cities like Burlington, that certain areas weren't getting funded, such as open space, recreation, historical preservation, and affordable housing. Generally, these things get squeezed out by the really tough things like police, fire, and schools, and DPW. So they passed this law, and they collect fees on all real estate transactions into a trust fund. And in fact, we've been paying those fees since the year 2000. When you buy a house or even refi, you pay into this, and they've actually increased those fees a little bit. Communities, one by one, vote whether they want to join this. And if they join this, they have to put a small surcharge on local taxes, but that gives them access to the state match, which has recently jumped to as high as 40%. It is true that when this program first showed up, the match was 100%, so you would double your money, but obviously with 188 communities, those days are kind of over. But a 40% match is pretty significant. So we estimate, and we've been over this a bunch of times, that the average homeowner in Burlington would pay about $75 additional per year on a tax of about $5,000. But there are exemptions available for people with low income and moderate income seniors. The CPA law allows us to charge anywhere from 1% to 3%. Most towns go with 1.5%. That's what we're proposing. However, some towns have increased it because they like what was going on. They have increased it. We can increase it, we can decrease it, and after 5 years, we can actually leave the program. No town has ever voted to leave the program. Commercial properties will pay the same rate. Obviously, the buildings cost more. We have worked with the Burlington Chamber of Commerce, Government Affairs Committee, who stated that they recognize that the CPA can have beneficial impacts on the town. Primarily for the business owners, we think that the historical preservation, the open spaces will make it a more attractive town in which to settle, bring your company. There are many surrounding towns that have passed it, such as Chelmsford, Bedford, Lexington. And we know that we're fighting with some of these towns to bring companies here. So we feel that the cost is moderate, and the question is then why do we need it? So we wanted to look at what some other towns have done. Hamilton built a town pool, and we know that town pool has been discussed in this town for a long time. Mattapoisett built a bike path. Well, bike paths have been talked about. Historical properties, I think we all know that historical properties have been lost for lack of funding to buy them. And Bedford and Tewksbury created affordable housing, including for people with disabilities. We are looking at open space projects for Burlington, like ADA accessible trails, more parking. The wetland, the big wetland is no longer going to be used for water because of pollution underground, but it could be a beautiful wetland with a boardwalk. Could be a great attraction. Recreation projects, more state-of-the-art playgrounds, adult fitness, and the swimming we mentioned. The obvious need for historical preservation and affordable housing as well. There's been a lot of discussion about the fact that a lot of seniors simply can't afford to stay in town. So how this would work is that if May town meeting votes this in, it would go on the ballot in November, and the public would then vote on it. If it passes, then an official town committee is formed, not the committee I'm involved with, the real official town committee. And that committee has up to 9 members. 5 must be from Recreation, Conservation, Historical, Housing, and the Planning Board. And there are 4 optional members that can come from various parts of the community. So in summary, we already pay into it by paying these fees, and it won't cost that much money, and people can opt out. We feel it's a strong opportunity to invest in Burlington with a big match from the state. So what we're really asking is for this committee, this board, to endorse this and give it a recommendation so that when we go to town meeting, we can say these various boards and committees have endorsed it. And as a matter of fact, every single one so far that we presented to, including Ways and Means and the housing folks, and not surprisingly, Historical Commission and the Rec Commission and Conservation Commission are all very excited about this. So we're asking if you will vote a vote of support and let us say at town meeting that another one of the important town boards is in favor of it. That's it. Are there any questions about it?
I don't have any questions, Bill.
Yeah, just a question. You commented there's an opportunity to opt out. I got this presentation when I was, as a member of the Recreation Commission.
Right.
Didn't understand there was an option to opt out, but I understood there was exemptions for lower and moderate income seniors.
Yes.
Expand on that a little bit with regard to your comment on opt out.
Let me see if I have that information as well as.
Can anybody opt out? Can businesses opt out?
No, businesses cannot opt out.
Does the town collectively have to opt, does the town collectively have to opt out, or is it individuals can opt?
No, individuals opt out.
Okay.
The town would opt out by not passing it.
Understand. No, I meant after the 5 years.
Yeah. Oh, no, if we wanted to opt out, then the town would vote again. There would be another bylaw and people would vote in election to drop out of.
So it's not individuals can opt out.
But individually, people would apply every year to opt out. Now, I would direct you to our website, which is cpaburlington.org, and also there's a coalition website, which is communitypreservation.org. Now, I should have, let me see, I have a copy of the warrant article here.
I think it's a bullet point.
Property owned and occupied as a domicile by a person who qualifies for low-income housing or lower moderate-income senior housing as defined in Section 2 of said act. If exemption is elected by the property owner, the taxpayer must apply annually.
So it's only lower and moderate seniors. It's not everybody can opt out.
No, not anybody can opt out, yeah.
Thank you for
And by the way the law is written, the first $100,000 of everybody's assessment is immediately subtracted. So if your house is worth $200,000, your tax is now based on $100,000. If it's based on $1 million, now it's $900,000. So there's that bottom slice taken off of everybody.
Is that for commercial as well, or just residential?
It is commercial, although if you have a $3 million building, the first $100,000 not going to save you too much.
Sure.
It was probably considered people that have a very low income and houses and so forth to take that off.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public that has any comments, questions, concerns on this matter? Check the chat.
By the way, we have a nice video on the website if you go.
That website, cpaburlington.org, there's a button for a video, and it's a 6-minute video that summarizes things pretty well.
I'll definitely have to check it out.
Anybody else?
I'm not seeing anybody in, I see Chris Warren, is that?
I think that was still from the
Is that
previous.
still from a
unless
previous?
she has something new.
Actually, I did have something I wanted to say,
Great.
if I may.
Of course.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. What I wanted to say is I think that this is an opportunity, I'm in support of this. I see this as the only mechanism we have, other than the planning board, to get some of the quality of life things that we want in our community. We lean a lot on developers, and they're not here to don't do those things for us. They're here to make a living. I mean, and they do what they can. But I think that if we want a community that looks the way we want it, we have to drive that bus. And this allows us to do that. This is how we would get a municipal pool. This is how we rehab affordable housing. This is how we build it. This is how we restore historical properties. This is, and anything we do can include sidewalks, not sidewalks by themselves, but can include it if it's part of a project. And so I would really hope that residents would want to participate in this and really shape the community that we want. And I think the other thing that I would really like to see us consider is for properties that the town would be interested in for open space or for recreation or affordable housing, to entertain rights of first refusal with property owners. I believe that the CPA would allow us to do that. Those kinds of agreements are often put in place 20, 30, 50 years in advance. And I would really like to see us move in that direction to achieve the master plan that we all want. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes,
I'm not seeing anybody else after you.
when this first came in, I went to Bob Mercier. Right, I said, this is great, we gotta do it. He said, the selectmen don't forget about it. And at that time, I didn't have the time to do it. But recently Jane comes from Situate and we were down at the lighthouse, nice lighthouse, parking lot and so forth. And it was really spruced up. And there was a beautiful big board like that with the history of it and everything else. And it said at the bottom, this was paid for by the CPA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's all over the place. You'll see spots where towns have taken advantage of this and done that little bit extra that really enhances. the town.
Nice.
Good idea.
Yeah, so I think everything that's been presented is a positive. I don't see any issues with this. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to close the public hearing?
No.
No, we're good. Okay, thank you.
No, it's just a discussion.
Perfect.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to bring the Community Preservation Act to the ballot in November.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Have a good evening, and again, thank you for your patience.
No, I was busy. It's good.
Just a discussion.
Actually, add Joe. So now are we on C?
You can add Joe. Yeah.
You can add Joe? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
think-
yeah, he said it, yeah.
Yep.
So are we on C? Is that
Yeah,
where
I
we
think
are?
that's the
Okay.
last item on.
We
our
cleared the room
agenda.
out.
Yes,
We're
we're
on
bang,
C.
folks.
I'm on number 7.
Page 5.
No, page 5.
Page 5, item C.
Item C is a continued public hearing, petition to amend the zoning bylaw, Article 2, definitions and Article 5, dimensional requirements to address groundwater separation for one dwelling district, submitted by the planning board. Let's start off by saying we've heard a lot of feedback from a lot of different folks. So I'd like to really kind of focus on new comments, if anyone from the audience is to speak. I think also there was definitely one clarification that staff, I think that you can, if you wouldn't mind clarifying that an article that was printed was the incorrect article. It was,
No, well, yes, but everything's
The
resolved.
incorrect draft.
So, we've had, the draft, there was a section, the last section, that included, provisions, if you were less than the 2 feet, you could do all these different, things. At the zoning bylaw review committee last week, so what happened was the, first draft of the final draft that was distributed internally did have the incorrect, it had an earlier version printed, so therefore, there were some, the building inspector had he was like, wait a minute, it says this and this, so then we got confused. But the last draft, so the draft that is in the warrant is what you have here printed in the staff report. After speaking with council, and the building department, and kind of make it as simple as possible and have just the 2 feet. As you know, that we're continuing to talk with the Conservation Commission about the stormwater bylaw, which is not related to necessarily groundwater, but as groundwater comes up, is pumped out from the sump pumps and goes somewhere. So how are those two work together? But this alone is designed to ensure that your slab, basement floor, crawl space is 2 feet above the groundwater. To alleviate what we are seeing more and more of is building in a water table and having sump pumps pumping out into the roadway, into street stormwater, into neighbors' property. That if we have this dimensional requirement, it will greatly alleviate the need to do that, and therefore solving the problem before it's a problem, is what this is trying to do. So it's taking, and because it's just a dimensional, you're just going to a building, you're putting in a building permit, your house is this high, it's this setbacks, and that you, yes, you do have to hire a licensed soil evaluator, which we've discussed previously, to make sure that you're the 2-foot separation. We have clarified that you just need to determine there's 2 feet. You don't need to dig 30 feet down to find the water table, but just make sure it's not within. So maybe you have 2, 3, 4 feet, but that you do have a separation there. And that's it. It is a dimensional requirement. There was a couple questions, oh, it's a dimensional requirement. It could go to the Board of Appeals. It could, as it stands right now. However, as we continue to work with, again, the Conservation Commission, and you may see some tweaks to this in September, but right now, it's very simple, just a dimension, and we're moving forward with this in May, and it will be Article 40 on the warrant.
Can we share the picture on page 7 with the audience?
Yep.
Please.
Let me see.
While Liz is pulling that up, I just want to make a brief statement because I know there's been a lot of public discussion about this and a lot of confusion about it. But it really is very simple. We hear from people all the time whose property is affected by their neighbor's construction. I've seen it in my own neighborhood. I bet probably most of us have. This is a very simple way for us to protect people's property from their neighbor's construction. Will it cost the person who's building a large addition or a new home a little bit more? Yes, but in my opinion, it is that person who should bear the cost, not their neighbor. And I think that's important for people to understand. The purpose of this is to protect the property of people who are living here in Burlington.
Thank you. For the folks at home, the picture that is
It's on the screen.
That's on the screen is an active project in Burlington. There was once a small ranch here, and it was torn down. I assume a larger size home will be built in this space. But you can see the abundance of water that's there right now. And now, I would like to think whoever is going to be building this new project is going to, make sure that they take care of the water so that the neighbors aren't affected. But this is a perfect example of why this bylaw needs to be in place. And, to staff's point, it will need to be tweaked, I think, a little bit later, but we're seeing more and more of these. And as we approach, a pretty high building season, my concern is that, and I think we heard from a member in the Fox Hill area where they said, can we retroactivate this because this has been an issue? Well, we can't go back and take what has already been built. What we can do is try to get ahead of it, and I think that's the goal here. To Barbara's point, there has been a lot of discussion, public discussion. There is not one specific person that we're calling out. We have a lot of great ethical builders. We have some folks who are new to the game and don't have the same area of expertise that others have. And to be honest, not everyone is as ethical as we would like them to be, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. So, I guess that's my 2 cents. Bill or Paul, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, but I live on top of the hill, and as soon as the house was built and the foundation was put in, the water started coming in. And the developer, fortunately, was GI, VA, and they made them dig up all the way around and put a French drain in out to the street and so forth. So I said, geez, if I'm on the top of the hill, I'm gonna get much water. Yeah.
Can you imagine what they're getting at the bottom?
Yeah.
So I live at the bottom of Paul's Hill.
Oh, okay. So, there we go. I didn't know that.
Right there. But, I think down at the bottom of the hill, over to the right, Paul,
Yeah.
because I know you walk around the neighborhood, they put in a couple of big houses there, And the house on the right, when that was being built and the foundation was put in, it was very similar to what you're seeing here. It was filled with water. We thought there was being an in-ground pool being put in
Yeah,
at that
that's
point.
what down there now.
Yeah, so it's around our neighborhood and probably, like you said, around others as well.
Okay. This is still a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment, have a concern? I believe it's Sherry. I can't see that far.
It's Sherry,
Yes,
and
there's-
then there's Susan, was second.
Okay, Sherry, you can go first.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Breaking up this entire conversation, so I did just want to comment, I guess I'll comment from the DBRC standpoint. As Kristen said, we had a meeting last week, and it was really confusing. And of course, the phone goes off right when I want to talk, but I'll talk right through it. We had some real concerns that the conditions were taken out, and I think Kristen mentioned something here tonight, although like I said, you're breaking up, about town council had some concerns about that. I have concerns about not giving either a developer or a homeowner, and I think our committee members did too, about an opportunity to at least try and mitigate it on site. And I'm not really sure what the reasoning is that they were taken out, other than concern, and the general may or may not. I think myself personally, I would rather see the conditions be put back in. And then if the Attorney General strikes it down, then we can, you say you're going to tweak it again in September anyway. I'm not sure this is really ready for prime time. So thank you. Just wanted to mention that.
Can I respond?
Yeah, please.
So the way we proposed this was a change to the single-family home district alone. As you guys know, because you see it with all the commercial projects, that commercial projects have this criteria that sit in site plan regulations, special permit regulations, plan development district regulations, and other places. So it's not something that we've really had to, it hasn't been a problem because we deal with it and it's required. However, we don't see single-family homes. We don't see tear down and replacements.
There is no provision in zoning to require a measurement be taken where groundwater is. So we don't actually know if you're 2 feet, 10 feet, anywhere. So therefore, we proposed it, and again, working with other departments to, what is the stormwater picture? What's happening? What are the biggest issues? What do we want to move forward sooner than later, because these are the biggest problems? And this quickly floated up to the surface that we're seeing a lot of water displacement, and therefore some pumps and water's going in a lot of different directions than it was before, especially with much larger houses. And that's from a stormwater perspective as well as groundwater. As I said, stormwater is also being worked on parallel to this. And we were looking to try to figure out a way to get at this issue. And our neighbors all have some sort of separation bylaw. 2 feet is definitely the standard. But they sit in Board of Health regulations, building department regulations, as well as zoning. The Lexington zoning code is what we modeled this one off of. Lexington is not just single family. Town council definitely flagged it that you're looking only at single family and having this requirement, which looks like, well, why just them? Even though in practice and policy, it is everywhere else, the way it was presented. So there was some concern there, which town council definitely said, well, that is definitely something that may get flagged because you're targeting one specific district where it's different, and and you're not addressing it necessarily in the building department codes. So anyway, so we looked at that, and then the second provision was, if you were less than 2 feet, you could have a registered engineer, you could figure out a plan, you have to mitigate it on site, which was all very good language, but in the mechanism we have here was it had to go to the building department for the building department to review, not other departments. And it not going through different boards, the building department, it either is or it isn't, not, well, maybe not, so
our advice was if we do want to move this forward, just make it as simple as possible, dimensional requirement, and we'll go from there. And that's why I am open to saying that it may be some things that we do want to consider, as Sherry's bringing up, for if you're less than the foot. And obviously, with the stormwater bylaw, which will be triggered with new construction, they will be looking at absolutely at mitigating any issues that are mitigating on the property. So this is a piece of a much bigger kind of where water is going puzzle in development. And I think Sherry's points are important, but I think they're also dealt with in other areas. So we'll be looking at those. The stormwater bylaw did get continued to September, so we'll be looking at that with that. However, this piece, as a separate standalone dimensional, whether we do this now or wait or tweak it, I think what the comments from this board was with the upcoming construction season, at least we're getting the data and information and having the separation to try to solve a problem before it even is a problem.
Understood, thank you. Susan Cadillac has her hand raised, I believe, is that correct?
Yep.
Susan?
Yeah, Sherry had her hand up again. I'm happy if you wanted to go back to her first.
No, if you would. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say that, the language that was taken out would not allow some pump lines to go into the street or to the neighbors. And I know that we see that in a lot of older homes now. And since we have a lot of homes that have been built with some pumps, like this property that you're showing here on the screen right now, I mean, this is a great example of, if they're not able to mitigate the water on site, the other alternative is that they're going to be building mounds and building the yard higher, which is going to make them higher than their neighbors, which is going to encourage water flow away from the property. It's going to make houses that are, very, very tall. Putting on-site mitigation there's a cost to it. I think someone mentioned, that the homeowner should bear the cost of the water mitigation, and I absolutely agree, which is why, I feel very strongly that there should be some kind of mechanism to deal with the property, with the water on the property. Someone had mentioned that, when there was a home built near him, they made them put French drains in and that fixed the problem. And that's kind of exactly what this is. It's a French drain. It's an underground pipe, not one on the street, not one on the yard, not one above ground. It goes underground, goes into an infiltration system. They're expensive to install. You have to hire an engineer. It's not just something that gets kind of thrown in. It's a little unclear what the issue is with the building department reviewing the plans. I know that's been brought up a few times, and it's just a little unclear what the snag is there, because they do review plans all the time. And as you mentioned, the goal, with groundwater and stormwater is, to mitigate it so that it's not, kind of flowing all over the place and flooding the neighbors. And if we're looking at mitigation systems with stormwater, I just think that keeping the language as it stands, if that gets approved, you're going to have a lot of people trying to work around it. There's going to be a lot of workarounds, and I don't know if that is going to lead to the goal of managing the water, or if it's really going to be people kind of working around it. And I don't know. I just feel like, especially if someone's trying to put an addition on, having that requirement that it be addressed, that it be mitigated, that it be engineered, is really going to give the best result for the homeowner, for the neighbors, especially looking at a site like the one you have up on the screen right now. That's a perfect example of a home, of a lot that was already there. It was already developed. It no doubt already had a sump pump. And now here we have an opportunity to, have that be mitigated on site and have an engineer look at it, versus trying to build a house that's, 40, 45 feet off the street, but technically it complies because you built up a bunch of dirt around it. So, I just think that having, the option in there to have an engineer design something that is going to manage the water is just going to give the best result for the homeowners, for the neighbors, and, for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I think I've heard both sides of that coin. People don't want to pay for an engineer, but now we do want to pay for, like, we do want to pay for an engineer. So, I mean, it's difficult which way it goes. You know, I think unfortunately, and again, we have some very ethical builders in town. We have some newbies who are still learning the ropes. We have people that
aren't so ethical. I think we're always going to have people that have workarounds, and that's unfortunate. But I also think that this is a step in the right direction to, again, get the data, learn how we tweak this, figure out what the best next steps are. Because without doing anything, we're stuck with big
Problems.
lakes and big problems in people's yards.
So I just wanted to just quickly respond to that and this picture and the intersection of the stormwater bylaw. So a project like this is definitely going to trigger the stormwater bylaw. There will need to be an engineer involved and there will need to be mitigation on site. So it keeps, I think the point of having mitigation on site is critical and it is required in the stormwater bylaw. The language we had was if you are less than 2 feet, you need to do all of these things. And I'm not saying we're not going to explore that further. It was just at this point, under just the RO district, it was to simplify it as much as possible. And then in September, re-advertise for for all of the districts and have some options there. That's a little bit more universal, so it doesn't look like we're just picking on one district, which we're not in practice again, but in the bylaw, it looks like that. So I think the comments are good, and we definitely need to be mitigating on site, and we definitely need an engineer involved. But the project like this will have a stormwater permit, and a lot of those discussions will happen at that level. This is literally just water in the basement, some pump where it goes, which isn't directly related to stormwater, but is at the same time because it's artificial stormwater. It becomes artificial stormwater runoff. So the comments are good comments. But just wanted to separate what this is and what it isn't. And I think we can explore further. If it's less than the 2 feet, what you do, but what we know is that less than the 2 feet is causing problems. We recognize that it may cause people to do a little bit more mounding, but that also, if you're moving that much earth, then you're going to trigger a stormwater permit. So
Can I address that too?
yeah,
You don't have to mound. You can actually do the right thing and not dig down lower than
and not
2
have a
feet.
big.
I mean, I add an addition onto my house. You know where I live. I live in a very low-lying area. I put a big addition onto my house. It does not have a basement underneath it because if I put a basement underneath it, it would have shoved water toward my neighbor. That's being a good neighbor. People can make that choice.
right. You
They can do the right thing.
Still build without a basement.
Right.
Sherry, did you have anything else to add?
And we also have Chris Warren also would like to speak.
Sherry,
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up with the, with my other comment too, and I think piggyback a little bit on Susan, is that I see again, I just think this isn't ready for prime time. It's very reactive to a specific, looking at this later. I see two reactions going to happen to this is you're going to, I think people will mound because they want the basement, specifically new homes, or you're going to go to the ZBA where they have no experience, staff, and having an engineer or something up front, then, wonder volunteers, but, no experience in any of this to really figure it out. So I'll let somebody else talk now. Thanks.
did you have something, Steph?
Was Chris Warren?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Did I have, no, I left.
So the Board of Appeals could override this? Is that correct?
It can grant a variance
can
because
grant
it's
it.
dimensional.
They could.
Okay, dimensional, yeah.
So this also doesn't prevent people, I mean, you don't have to necessarily hire an engineer to do an infiltration system. A simple dry well is technically a form of an infiltration system. So just gonna throw that one out there. And so again, kind of addressing, again, I was at the ZBA committee meeting that was where Susan and Sherry were. So the building inspector had an older. ZBRC, I'm sorry. The ZBRC, Zoning Bylaw Review Committee, they had, the building inspector had an older version of the bylaw. I didn't realize he had an older version. It was confusing. So I just wanted to address that. I didn't realize that was an issue until the next day, actually. So any confusion at that meeting, that was why. And I think that's all I have to say, if I can remember.
Yeah, and we recognize that ZBRC is not necessarily the ideal body, but to simplify.
Or ZBA. See, you did the same thing.
Sorry.
The ZBA is
I
nice.
corrected you and then I made the mistake. Yeah, the Board of Appeals is not ideal. But they can waive dimensional requirements. I mean, the point is that hopefully we'll come in with the point is we get the information.
Yeah,
We know where the water table is, which we have no idea right now. In that picture, we have no idea where it is.
Yeah, so the idea is you would submit your drawings with, or you would submit your soil engineer's submittal with your building permit, and it's a black and white thing, either yes, it works, or no, it doesn't, and no, it doesn't, then you have to go to the ZBA at this point.
Not even where, it's just, this is where it is.
This is where it is does the math work out, you know? And so we wanted to I think the reason that Kristen got rid of all those other, going to all the different boards is we just wanted to simplify it, not only for us, but also for homeowners who want to do this. It's just, instead of having to go all these, you know.
Right, it's simple.
It's simple.
2 feet, do you have 2 feet? Okay. If you don't have 2 feet, got a problem.
Okay. Susan, did you have anything new that you'd like to add? I see your hand up.
Just a quick clarification on the, pay for engineer, not pay for engineer. The last time I came, there was a provision in there for paying for 2 separate engineers. So that was just one thing on that, and I think now it's down, or it was down to 1, but now those are.
It's just a soils engineer.
Just the soil. So, yeah, I mean, and I guess also hearing, the pathway to, either you meet it or you don't. And if you don't, you go for variance. Are we in that process? Is that the best way to mitigate the discharge, I guess, is something I think we should be thinking about. And then also, knowing that you're looking for more tweaks. I just want to echo Shari's, concern that it may not be ready. Thank you.
Thanks. I also think that, where the stormwater's coming into play in September, I think some of those things
Be addressed in that. So again, it's like, let's collect the data, let's try to get ahead of a problem, and, it's sad that there are many people that have addressed us, or have sent emails and had phone calls who are in support of this, but they're afraid because there has been so much commentary on Facebook and or public forums, and they feel like they're going to be shamed. They didn't want to do it, which, to each their own. But the amount of emails that I've received because of people who have water in their basement it's just unfortunate. So, I feel like this bylaw is really just be a good neighbor. I think that's the moral of the story. Last comment, Christine Ward. Is that her name?
Does Chris Warren have?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Chris Warren, and thank you, Madam Chairman. This may come off as stupid, and as I think some of you know, that's never stopped me, but I want to get a sense of how many homes in Burlington have sump pumps, because I have to be honest with you, I would never buy a home that had a sump pump. I mean, when we bought our home on Greenwood Road, the first thing we looked at is the basement. Is there a water line? We wouldn't have bought a house that had that kind of problem. I would regard it as unsellable. So maybe I'm out of it and I don't understand that this is like a normal condition for people to have sump pumps in their homes. So I want to get a sense of what percentage have them or had to have them put in.
So coming from planning staff, we don't have that number. I don't know who would have that number. We can check with Building, we could check with Board of Health. I don't.
Right, but what we do know is that
that
it's
it's a-
brand new houses being built with sump pumps in them, quite a few, and that's, if we're finding.
Brand new houses are more than 1, 2, or 3 sump pumps.
Yeah.
We probably should be looking at this a little more critically. And that's
Christine,
that's
it's
the
very
research that
common.
we've been doing. Like,
Yeah.
are people building homes with sump pumps as brand new homes? And we're
Yes.
seeing it's pretty common.
Yeah.
And therefore, we should be.
It's common all over Burlington, Christine.
Thank you for saying that, because that's what I was not understanding, because I will not accept that as a condition of buying a house. But that's just me.
Just so, but to answer your question, Christine, we don't have the numbers, but I'll tell you, they're all over town. The house I grew up in had a sump pump. The house I live in now has a sump pump. All of my neighbors have a sump pump. So it's very common.
I'm living in a bubble. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you're very lucky that you don't have one, Christine.
And then I think Sally Willard also has her hand raised.
All right, Sally, last comment of the night.
Ooh, I get the last word. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
My comment is simply that when we bought our house here some 36 years ago, there was no water in the basement. And if we had certain conditions in the winter and the spring melt, then we have water. But we're at the top of a hill and we live in lead. And I think that we never expected to have water. It's been as deep as 6 inches. We do not have a sump pump. But I'm happy to say that since we had our addition done and they put in something, my neighbor described it to me. He said, "You don't get water anymore, do you?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, that's because today's standards require footings." And I'm not sure why the new houses would not, whatever they need, and maybe that's why this amendment to the bylaw is needed. I'm not sure why whatever they are doing does not suffice to meet the need that would then require them to have a sump pump. That's it. I agree with Ms. Warren. I would not buy a house with a sump pump. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Has anyone else on the board or staff anything else they'd like to add? May I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend favorably on the petition to see if the town will vote to amend the Town of Burlington zoning bylaw to add a new definition in Article 2 for groundwater and dimension provisions in Article 5 requiring a 2-foot minimum separation between the basement or slab level of a new or over 1,000 square foot addition of a dwelling in the one-family RO zoning district submitted by the planning board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
4-0. Okay.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Where are we next?
Page 9.
9 minutes? Is that where we are?
Page 9.
Oh, we have something
Yeah,
else?
page 9 minutes, yes, you're
Oh,
right.
okay.
I was reading this
Yeah,
carefully.
no, that's, I understand. I'm with you.
Because with the value of land, I mean, I would say probably more than half of the town, if you put in a basement, you're gonna have to put a sump pump. We had a sump pump, and the reason I knew it, because how often the water went out, guess who emptied the sump pump?
Moving on to meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review?
Yes.
Yes, we're good?
Yep.
May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes for February 17th, 2022, March 3rd, 2022, and March 17th, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
4-0.
Thank you. Moving on to other matters. So, as most folks know, there is an open planning board seat. If you don't know, there is an open board. There's an open seat on the planning board. So if you go onto the planning board website, there is a link to an application. You can send that to staff. From there, we will be conducting interviews. Once we select the candidate that we feel is the right fit, we will present that person to the select board for final approval. And then you can join us till 9:30 every Tuesday, or the first and third Thursday of every month.
I have a question on that, if I may.
Sure.
And Barbara mentioned this when I don't know how we get into the discussion, but is when there's an open seat of the planning board, is it the planning board or the planning board and the board of selectmen?
So it's the planning board that recommends the person, and that person is presented to the select board for final approval.
Well, the select board and the
And the
planning
planning
board
board.
together
In
vote.
fact, it's us because they would not dare.
Well, I don't know about that, but.
We present a candidate to them, and then a joint meeting of both boards votes on that person.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, planning
So,
board,
just quickly, so,
Sure.
you did a good job explaining. I just want to so on the planning board website is a link to the application and the questionnaire. Just a couple questions, they're pretty simple. Are you free on Thursdays, first and third? Like, are you familiar with the planning board process? You know, just very simple kind of questions, so we understand the person a little more, and you do understand the person a little more. And we're looking for applications due back by Monday, May 2nd. So certainly, I think I sent it out to all of you guys. If you want to send out further in your channels, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I posted on the residents page, the moms page, and I think the parents network Burlington page. Please feel free to continue to share that with any other pages or groups.
Where we have an open seat now, where is the process to choose?
So we're waiting for applications. Applications are gonna, but we're not going to accept applications after May 2nd?
May
So
2nd,
if
Monday.
somebody's interesting, they have to put an application.
By May 2nd.
Yeah, it's a
Planning board.
simple application, and send it to planning@burlington.org. It's on the planning board website. We are hoping in the month of May, by the end of May, to have that joint meeting, so we can be back at 7 by June.
Right, but we have to make our recommendation to the select board by May 11th?
May 11th is a month from the appointment of members Bayard of this, our member.
Okay.
Our
But
missing
since
member.
they have more members than we do, they in effect make the choice.
No, they don't. They have 5, we have
They
6.
have 5,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, sorry, I just
So,
wanted to
planning
clarify
board budget.
where it was. So, as you know, we're looking for a new position, a development coordinator position. And we will be going to town meeting. We did go to Ways and Means last week. Some of you were there, and thank you for coming. We did get a 6-5-1 vote, which was favorable. But I think it's, anyway, I did send out the backup to all of you that I sent out, that will go out with the backup to town meeting members. Just on the points, it's very much, as you guys know, just driven of what our capacity is, our capacity to plan. You know, we're 4 people all on the field all the time to try to just, get there. So anyway, just if you talk to anyone, or just those are the points that we want to discuss, and we'll be prepared to talk about at town meeting, and any and all of you that can attend town meeting for that budget to support the department would be appreciated.
And I just want to add for the other members, the ones that are present and the ones that are not here, that I will be calling you to strong-arm you into coming.
Yeah, I think
We
it
all
made
need to be there.
I think it made a
It's
big
really
difference at Ways
important.
and Means the second meeting, so
Yeah, it's really important that we're all there, because this is an important, it's a vital position, and we need it. And I think town meeting needs to see that the entire planning board is in support of this.
Agreed. Moving on to the assistant planner position. Do you think Brady's watching us right now? I'm just teasing.
I don't have any texts from him.
I think Brady is at the beach.
Oh, I wish
I
I wish I was
don't have any
Brady.
texts, but could be.
I'm teasing. So the assistant planner posting is up and running.
Posting's
and-
up.
Great.
It's up on the website. I'll be drafting. I was thinking about sending it out a little further today, but I said, no, we need to be like, come to Burlington, it's so great. And so I need to put together tomorrow morning and then send out a little bit more wider audience. But it's already, yeah, it's up on all the state websites and Mass Municipal and APA, but we'll get it out to the graduate schools and so forth.
Okay,
Great.
great.
But
Do we
big
have-
shoes to fill on.
For sure. Do we have any subcommittee reports or anything that anyone else would like to discuss?
Just Airbnb, another Airbnb issue that came up in the news. Just, do we have stats on where we are with that?
Staff?
In the news?
Yeah, there's another Airbnb party where there's some deaths.
In Burlington?
No, in the country, but it kind of just goes, I know this was on the list of things to follow up on.
So, they're prohibited, the building department, and we continue to enforce what we know of.
This is a question of contacting
The
Airbnb
contacting-
themselves, because they could probably just put an algorithm of
Yes.
for the prohibited ones that aren't.
That's your pen. Now, without Brady, I'm not exactly sure where we left off, but I know we sent it to this, we sent everything to the contacts we knew, and he was looking, and kind of trying to find the right person to put us on the list of, that we're not allowed here, don't.
I can check his email. We have access to his
Okay.
email. I don't know off the top of my head. Knowing Brady, he did something.
Definitely.
But,
If you asked, he did.
yeah, so,
So he,
we'll follow up with that, the
Thank you.
Airbnb. Yep.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Have a good evening, folks.
good job, Brenda.
Thank you.
26.
Please, do we have enough people?
Here you go.